Let's take a little video tour here of Black Lake Campground.
Welcome to Black Lake.
Yes, welcome to Black Lake Campground. We are your hosts, Stephanie and Travis Augustine. Hosting has been a fun, interesting adventure this whole summer. We started Memorial Day weekend and have been out here every weekend with the exception of one this summer. It has been a great experience for both the two of us as well as our kids. Everybody's had a great time. The regular guests loved that there's been a host out here, which from what I understand, we're the first host at this campground in about 7 years.
Yeah. This weekend's kind of abnormal as it's just us right now. It's pretty empty. Usually there's reservations out all the way through into Monday, Tuesday. But with the end of summer coming, I guess I can see it.
Here we have Site 1.
I like the width of this one.
This one's got a really nice width. I mean, I would be really tempted to put a tent back there. This one I think would be a great tenting site. You could definitely get a smaller camper on here, but I think just the layout of this site, I would be tempted to put a tent right there and kind of be secluded in the trees. You can see there's a path right here that leads to Site 2.
Pretty much all the sites have paths.
Which we'll take.
Between them.
We'll take the path, why not?
Just people reserve sites next to each other as a group, and it's a quick way to get, in a fun way, to get between them.
I should mention that the Forest Service spent a lot of time last fall out here, and they really cleared out every site's view of the lakes. Because when we were in here last year, you may remember that one of our primary comments was that there was no real view of the lake. And while some of the sites don't have a great view of the lake, every site now has a view of the lake. This is another really kind of cool site. Again, I've seen campers in here, I've seen fifth wheels in here, I've seen motorhomes in here.
We've seen it all.
But where Stephanie's standing, again, is where I would put a screen tent, or even if I didn't have a camper, I'd be putting my tent there. As you can hear, we have one other camper in the campground with us on Site 4, so we'll respect their privacy and not go in there. And we'll just get a couple pictures of it after they leave, or maybe come and do a little bit more video. Site 3 is a non-reservable site. I should mention that Site 1 and 2 are reservable.
Yep. And they're on the lake. This one is not. But still, nice size.
But if you're looking for some seclusion, this one's fairly deep.
A lot of these sites off of the lake are nice and deep.
Well, what do you got there? Looks like concrete pad or something. I know this area used to be part of or in the vicinity of a CCC camp, so it's possible. I think it was too, but it's possible that they put something there.
But it looks newer than
it's possible.
It's hard to say. But it's fun to explore and see what you find.
So that was Site 3, again, a non-reservable site. Site 4 is non-reservable, and again, we'll cover that one in a minute. Here we have Site 5, another non-reservable site. Again, good depth. Good privacy if you come in. I love the canopy of this site.
Actually, I like 3's better, but yeah, they both have nice. A lot of these have good canopies.
which is great if you are staying in a tent because your tent doesn't get all hot and sticky. The only downfall I would really come up with these non-lakeside sites is back here is never dry. So the bugs can be pretty wicked.
And even the ones up on the loop don't seem to dry out.
So while we're walking to our next site, Stephanie, what would you say your favorite part about hosting was this summer?
The people.
What do you mean?
Just the different people we had come through and interacting with them.
There were a lot of cool people that have been here for years. There's a couple of groups that have been coming here for generations, and they were very welcoming, very excited to see us, talk to us all the time.
Friendly and
so our daily routine, if you want to call it that, as we walk on to reservable site 6, is we get up, make breakfast, have some coffee. There is no set time that we really have to do anything. The Forest Service likes the bathrooms cleaned by noon. But
we usually head out about 9:30 to do them.
We usually head up about 9:30. It takes us half hour, 45 minutes, depending on where they're at. Stephanie and I, this is the site we were on last year. There was no view of the lake, whereas you can see now there is, but our kids spent a lot of time playing in that little gully there.
Yep, the view of the lake, if you walk down that path and up to that ridge, that was our view of the lake.
Yes, our view of the lake. We did not see the lake last year until we got down this path. And up here, and we put our chairs up here and sat down and enjoyed the lake. But that was all we had. This was unbelievably overgrown. We sat right here. That was all we could see of the lake.
Lake access from this one actually isn't that bad.
No, it's not. There are some steps.
So.
This site did flood on us last year. Site 4 floods quite a bit, so some of these lower sites do have some issues with that, but it takes some good rain for that to happen.
Yeah, for the most part, in a standard rain there.
During a normal, everyday rain, they're fine. It's the
oh my God, batten down the hatches.
Yeah, the oh my God, batten down the hatches, apocalyptic rains that seem to be so prevalent this year. And across the way is non-reservable Site 7. So after we do bathrooms, we tend to, generally at that point, the U.S. Forest Service comes in and they give us a sheet of paper with the upcoming reservations. And we compare that sheet to the previous day to see what new ones need to be put out or if there's any cancellations, and then we take a walk.
They usually go out on Sunday. They usually don't change between Saturday and Sunday, at least this year. We didn't have that issue. But if there is any changes, we get those taken care of. But Sunday afternoon, for the week, we'll get them out. And
generally, there's some mowing that needs to be done. This site has not been used a whole lot. But again, a deeper site that if you like your privacy, you can certainly have it, because by the time you get your tent up or your camper set up and you put a car down at the end, nobody's going to see you. You're blocked in.
A lot of these offsites, we see more tents than we do campers, but not saying they can't get in there, just what we tend to see.
Over here we have a set of pit toilets, kind of across from sites 8 and 9, vault pit, whatever you want to call them.
10.
Only thing I'm going to say about them is be kind. Help us keep them smelling nice by remembering to put the seat down.
Yes, that makes a
That makes a huge difference.
I like this site.
This is a neat site.
I like how wide it is.
It's nice and wide. I have seen some smaller campers parked between Kind of where that picnic table
Yeah,
is.
I've seen them back into here.
I've seen them up over here, trees.
Yep.
The nice thing about this site is it is semi-shaded, but it also has a decent amount of sun, which is great if you're like us. If you're great like us and you use solar, it really helps out. And you can see we have a path here going to site 9. I should mention 8 is reservable, as 9 is not. But this is a very popular site as a non-reservable site. There's almost always somebody on this site.
Just about, yeah. This one and 17.
Yeah.
And 17 actually surprises me.
Another view of the pit of the vault toilets.
And you know where they are.
Not a whole lot to be said about them.
Oh, seven of them out here, though.
Oh, we got a path going next door. That's going to be Site 10, so we'll just continue on down the line here. Site 10 is reservable. I should mention as we're leaving 9, I've seen some very big units in Site 9.
It's amazing the size you can get into these. They don't look like it, but...
Yeah, especially I imagine in the video.
Yeah.
Rumor has it that the Forest Service may be doing more work in here to clean out some of the underbrush to really kind of clean things up and make them look nice. But here we have Site 10, again a reservable site. That path right there meets up with the path that goes down to the beach that we'll explore in a few minutes.
That one,
this one here
leads right up to the water pump right next door.
Well, let's head over there. Let's go check out our source of water. We had some very interesting fun figuring out how to keep water in the camper. We took a 5-gallon Gatorade jug, like you'd see at a sporting event, and filled it up. Then we'd drag it back up to our site and use a 12-volt transfer pump in order to put it into the fresh tanks.
Yep.
But just a good old-fashioned hand pump. It's actually very telling. It's an experience I really think that people should have, to spend a good amount of time somewhere where all you have for water is something like this, because it gives you an idea of just how much water you use.
Yeah. You don't realize it until you have to really monitor it.
Over the week of the 4th, I think we pumped 40 gallons out of there.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That pump was in use constantly. Before we head down to the beach, let's shoot across here and check out reservable site 11.
Yeah, you're right. I've been out here all summer and I still get them lost.
Again, a really kind of neat site. The only ding I have on these sites is that wetland behind them. They're so buggy.
But if you come prepared for it...
Yeah, if you come prepared with thermocells and citronella, it's not bad at all.
No.
So that's site 11.
Shall we head down to the beach? And
Let's do 12, then we'll do 13 and then the beach, because you can get to the beach from 13.
Okay, sounds good.
Here we are, non-reservable site 12.
This one's a nice deep one.
This one is nice and deep. A neighbor of ours was in here a couple weeks ago, and he has a monster fifth wheel that he pushed right back in here.
Yep.
And he had all kinds of room.
Yet.
I mean, the nose of his fifth wheel was probably right about here.
Yeah, probably right about in here.
But he had room for his fire pit and his awning, and it was nice. On to site 13. Here we are at site 13.
This one's a popular one.
Very
You'll
popular.
Find out why in just a minute.
There is several reasons this one is very popular.
Yes, 13 and 15 are used a lot as a group site, even though they're individual sites.
So over here you can see the backside of site 15.
Yep.
This one opens up to 15. And there's actually a fair amount of room between Site 10 and Site 16, which really kind of adds to it. Plus there's another set of vault toilets across the way.
Yep.
But the real draw, especially for groups, is right here. Direct access to the beach.
It's not a
white sandy beach. Full disclosure, we are not in Hawaii. Most of our beaches tend to look kind of
in our
grassy.
Small campgrounds like this is a typical beach.
Does not get deep, so it's actually really good for kids,
Yep.
especially those that maybe are not the best swimmers. You can see over here there's a trail, and if we pan over this way, there's another trail.
Now this trail is actually part of the one that goes all the way around the lake. It actually goes behind the campsite.
You can see we have a bat house up there. There's actually another bat house at the pit toilets across the way from us. And we're going to talk to the Forest Service about maybe building some more bat houses next year. Because we have not seen a lot of bats out here, and probably one of our biggest complaints about the campground as a whole, from the campers and our perspective, is the bugs. They were horrible at the beginning of the year. So as long as we're on our little complaint, let's go over the short list of complaints that we have, especially as hosts.
Yeah.
I guess you've probably seen the little video I put on Facebook middle of summer. And the general message of that as we wander onto Site 15 here is don't be that guy.
No.
And by that guy, I mean running your generator, your loud, obnoxious construction grade generator. If you got a little quiet Honda, that's one thing. But the people I'm thinking of are the ones that don't spring for those Hondas. And they run them all day. A lot of people come out here for the tranquility. And that tranquility can be shattered rather easily. We're wandering onto Site 14 here, a reservable site. It can be shattered rather easily by people with loud generators, loud music. I have no problem with loud kids. You know what?
Kids will be kids.
Kids will be kids. They're out here having fun. Where I have a problem is those man-made noises, as you were. And yes, kids kind of fall into that category, but it's a different kind of noise.
It's typical day-to-day kid noises.
And it's those noises that really start to bother me. So that was sites 13, 15, and now we're leaving 14, all three of which are reservable. We do see 14 taken quite a bit by overflow for groups. So like if you have a family that has 3 campers, they'll take 13, 15, and 14.
And a lot of times they spend their time usually on 13 because it's the biggest of the bunch. But
another set of vault toilets. And again, only thing we have to say about those that is even remotely negative is
close
the seat. And please try not to miss.
Yeah, because somebody has to come through and clean them up.
And
whether it's someone who works for the campground or the Forest Service or what have you.
Or a volunteer like us.
Or a volunteer. Somebody's got to clean.
Here we have Site 16, another reservable site. And
this one's a tricky one.
This one's kind of tricky because I've seen campers pushed into here. I see campers pushed back into here. But then you come around the corner and you've got this where your fire pit and your picnic table are. I've seen tents right ahead over here, but between this stump and this red pine. But this is a tricky site.
Yeah.
It's a very popular site. It's an extremely popular site. And it's got real easy access to the lake. And what I like about this one is the fire pit, you can see the lake. Yeah, it's a little farther away, but to be honest with that hiking path that goes behind it, I don't think I'd want to be any closer to the lake.
No, I don't know that I would either. I know a lot of these I don't know that I'd want to be any closer to the lake with that trail.
But that, you mentioned that, don't make a mess in the bathrooms because someone has to clean it up. And I would extend that to your campsite as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. And with the
someone's going to have to clean it up. It could be a member of the U.S. Forest Service. Yes, they're paid. I get it. But you know what?
They still don't want to pick up after you.
Non-reservable Site 17. They don't want to pick up after you. And frankly, they have other work they need to do.
Yep. And if there's no volunteer host out at the campground, The person that's going to be picking up after you are going to be the next people to use the site.
So, like I said, just, don't burn your garbage. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. Burning plates is convenient. And as long as you're smart about it so that you don't have ash flying everywhere, it's fine. But let's take a look at this fire pit, for example, here. Right here. We have a beer bottle cap. Okay, one little thing. Oh, what do we got here? Some tin foil. Volunteers like us have to come through and clean these. That's a rock. And this is by far not bad.
No, this is actually really good.
We had one earlier this year where there was eggshells and tin foil, and
you name it, it was there.
It was bad. It was a half a bucket of garbage I pulled off of that site. So, if there's no host and the Forest Service doesn't come through, who's the next one that's going to be on that site? Probably another camper. Do you really want to let somebody else clean up your mess? I don't feel right doing that. So, onward to Site 18 and more positive things.
Yes.
Because we don't want this to be a negative video, because it was a very positive experience for us.
That's the biggest thing we can't stress. Even though we are pointing out the downsides, there's a lot more positives that go to it.
Site 18, reservable. Very popular site.
Very nice site.
Very nice site. Again, you could stick a tent in here around the corner, and I've seen a lot of people do it. I've seen campers up over here, over Stephanie's shoulder. Great view of the lake, especially from your fire pit, which is by far probably my favorite part. The next site is the arguably most popular site in the campground. And the reason we're recording as we walk from site to site is, one, it gives us a chance to ramble and kind of talk to you, but also to give you just an idea of how much space is between some of these sites.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some that are almost right on top of each other, which, like if we were to camp with my family, would be good because the kids all want to get together, the cousins want to play, but it also gives you that little bit of separation for your own personal space.
Because let's face it, at the end of the day, you can sometimes reach a point where your family, I love you, but I need my space.
But as you get further into the campground here, into these higher numbers, there is actually more space between the sites, which is great if you're not camping if you're a single person or maybe a couple or maybe a family that, like us, where you want the space from everybody else.
But they're not so far apart that...
We should note, for the purpose of this video, that we did not kick anyone off this site.
No.
We just got lucky. This site has been open a grand total of maybe 5 days. 5 days this entire summer.
Yeah,
And this is why, right here. I have seen so many people come in with boats and kayaks and canoes. We beached our canoe to visit with some friends a couple weeks ago. This site is amazing. And
nice, easy lake access.
So in our case with the kids, they could go swimming down here with little difficulty while we're sitting at the fire. Easy to keep an eye on them. Amazing view of the lake. The only real negative I can say is that this path right here is the walking trail around the lake. So if somebody's hiking it, you're going to feel like they're walking through your site. But again, not that big of an issue.
No, it's not.
I should mention cell coverage is extremely spotty out here. And the only reason I thought of that is because I just happened to see a text message come through on my phone.
Well, that and 19 is right next to one of the places you can get a little bit of service.
Second boat landing is here, and our dumpsters are down here as well. We're not going to take you down there, but, you know.
If you've seen one dumpster and boat landing, you've seen them all.
And as we leave the boat landing / dumpster, we come to a fork in the road. Obviously, from the do not enter sign, you cannot go straight / right at the fork. Or excuse me, left. Wow, you're supposed to go straight. And the reason for that is it gives cars a way to go all the way around and position themselves for their sights back down the loop, because all the driveways are angled in such a way that it's kind of hard to back a camper in unless you're facing the direction that you would face when you're leaving.
You're pulling out, yeah.
So and the nice thing about it is we're back here on this loop. So most campers come and see us because they drive right past us.
Alright.
Here we have Site 26, a non-reservable. This is actually kind of a really cool site.
It is.
Especially if you like your privacy. Because you look at it, you're like, oh, this is a little bitty thing. And then you come back here, and there is enough room for a moderate-sized camper.
Oh yeah, nice and open back here. And
we've actually talked about if we were to camp on this site, that I would put our trailer right in here.
Right through here.
And yeah, you'd see part of the trailer, but for the most part, the trailer and the awning. Yep, hang the back bunk kind of over that overgrowth a little bit. The front bunk and tongue would be up here. The awning would be, well, where I'm standing.
Yeah.
But then you'd have the fire pit, the picnic table. You'd get some good privacy.
Yes.
And this one actually isn't too buggy because it's not super, super wet in the center of this loop.
Yeah. The other one on this loop isn't that bad either.
I have to say, I'm actually kind of surprised that more people haven't taken advantage of this site.
No. I know, that does surprise me.
Another path down to the dumpsters.
I haven't used it this summer, but I think the kids have.
The kids have.
Bugs don't seem to bother kids.
Site 25. This is a neat site as well, also very popular.
This campground in general is pretty popular.
It is. It's a very popular campground. Not too much of a view of the lake, but I think there are plans to open this view up because this is actually a bit of a peninsula. Right here is a little path that walks down to the water, and if I look just right, I don't know if it's showing on the phone, probably not, I can see water. So this is kind of a cool site. We have a path that leads down to the water that apparently Stephanie wants to investigate.
I haven't been down this one yet.
This marker here is for the path that goes around the lake.
And the path that goes around the lake would actually cut off and go down this way.
Yep, the path goes down this way. And then this is also the path, but going the other direction.
Yep.
But this site does have some fairly decent lake access if you follow the path down.
Yep. It's not a bad little boat launch either down here either.
No. Relatively
Slippery.
free of sand or weeds. I was going to say somewhat sandy. So the kids could swim here.
Yep. And considering this lake really isn't that bad to walk in.
No, it could get a little slimy and squishy, but
it's not.
What do you expect out of a natural lake?
Bad.
What do you expect out of a natural lake? Again, if we take a left here, that heads down around the lake. There's a little footpath here that meets up with another footpath.
And this takes us over to 24.
that takes us up to 24. Right now we're back on 25, and I'm going to take a little left here and meet up with this path just because it's a little better defined. There's the Adventure Stephanie. We should have brought the Adventure Chessie on this walk. And here we are, site 24. Honestly, this one is probably my absolute favorite.
As much as I like 19, I like this one better.
It's got a little bit steep path down to the lake, but the really cool thing, if I come over here and I go to sitting height like I'm at the fire, I've got a beautiful view of the lake, and not many sites have that.
No.
Not a huge site, not super private, but still
Kind of the road, but
a nice site. It's
nice.
a wider site. So this is site 24, which is reservable. Some overflow parking next to the, I guess you could call them pillboxes. This particular bathroom serves as the storm shelter for
the campground.
The entire campground. The roof, the walls, everything is concrete, reinforced concrete. We'll take a little right over here and check out non-reservable, excuse me, site 23. This site we thought about using as our site for hosting.
I'm actually glad we didn't take it. This one's a little bit buggier. I think it's just the plants that are right around it.
And I think it's lack of activity. The big downfall to this site that I see is it's narrow and small.
It is.
By the time we got, or narrow and deep, I should say, by the time we got our camper in here and my Suburban and Stephanie's car, there wouldn't have been a whole lot of room. One advantage to this site for us, though, would have been because the bathrooms are right to the left, I could have kept the U.S. Forest Service lawnmower behind the bathrooms. I still could with the site we're on, but the site we're on is so big,
we have the room, we might as well use it.
We have the room, we might as well use it. Reservable site 22. People have asked me why the fire pit is so low on this one, and I tell them I think it's because this is the ADA site, which would make sense. But this site, again, a really nice view of the lake. There's a path that goes down to the lake itself. Decent water access.
Well, something cool on this site is around the 4th of July, we saw turtle laying eggs on here.
Yep, right about under this picnic table.
Yep.
So, I want to say...
I think it was right here.
Right in here somewhere.
Yeah.
So, there may be baby turtles escaping soon. Right through there is the host site.
Our home away from home this summer.
Home base.
Yep.
We're going to skip over that and check out the last site on the loop, which is site 20. For those of you following along at home, that would make the host site, site 21.
Plus there are 3 other walk-in sites.
See, site 21.
28 and 29.
There we are, home away from home.
29 is reservable. 27 and 28 are walk-up only, or first come, first served.
And here we go, site 20. This is a really kind of a neat site as well. Because again, if you have a tent, you can sneak your tent around the corner and be semi-obscured. But another great view of the lake. One last stop on our little tour before we head home. We'll take a quick little peek at the trailhead down here.
And something we found out a couple weeks ago, if you're into geocaching, there are 3 caches around here. Which I thought was something somewhat interesting.
So right here is the path that goes behind all the sites. And then up here is the site, or the trailhead that goes around the lake. And that comes out on the far side of the campground, down by sites 27, 28, and 29, which Stephanie pointed out in the little video clip of us walking into those. And then this loop makes its way all the way back out. This is where we would have came in if we had taken the straight...
Stay to the right.
Around the gray button top.
Oh. We are going to be heading to the campsites.
We should say that we're not going to go to 27 and 28. Those sites are in pretty rough shape. They haven't been used all summer. Last time we talked to the Forest Service, they were thinking about having to completely redo them.
Speaking of 27, we are coming up to it, and as you can see by the path, like we mentioned, it looks pretty rough. The site we're really headed back to is 29, and it's right at the end of this trail.
It is a reservable site, and it's a very popular site.
Honestly, if this was more our camping style again, we'd be all over it.
We do miss this style of camping.
There's 28, or at least a path into it.
We used to do a lot of this style of camping. We used to do a lot of camping where you had to take a boat to get to your site. Having kids tends to throw a monkey wrench in that. Although there are people that do it, and I commend them for it.
Yeah, I couldn't do it with kids. Dogs is fun enough. And we've reached 29. It's got a great view of the lake from here.
And it's actually a pretty good sized site.
Whoop! Well,
So there you have it. Black Lake Campground. Lots of loons back there. All in all, we very much enjoy this campground. Hopefully you'll choose it as one of your future destinations.